But I do see like this becoming like I'm trying to envision like if this becomes like someone does this in like a high school play in the next 10 years. I do,
God.
right? Save the babies. I do see the references being updated from MP3 to iPhone, from Entourage to I don't know what's more iconic than Entourage right now. I don't know. I'm gonna say Game of Thrones just because. Just because everyone knows Game of Thrones.
But the kids watch.
But I think those type of social references could be updated. But I think the overall theme of depression and unfulfilled dreams and sibling rivalry and being forgotten and overlooked, those kind of themes would probably still stay. And I think those are themes that are transient over time, that people still experience regardless of the era, So I think some of those themes can be updated according to time, and I think it's very plausible to do. But I think at the core, from at least what I took to be the core of the play, it doesn't need to be updated and can still be reflected upon and relatable in 10, 15, 20 years and so on.
So you don't think Masha will be a TikTok influencer?
Ah!
Oh my God, that's amazing! And yes. Masha's gonna be like, let's do the Jason Derulo dance.
Oh my God.
Why would he want to rewrite this? Are we saying because
I don't know.
I
don't know if he necessarily would, but we've seen it before with specifically, I think about The Odd Couple by Neil Simon. He rewrote it and adapted and updated it a little bit from what it was at the time to a little bit more modern. I think he took out some of the references that did date it. And I think she brings up a good point that regardless of what references or if there's a rewrite, like the theme that is in there is obviously the thing that needs to come through, and some of that other stuff is just kind of a distraction.
Right.
I saw Tyler wincing for a second
because I think rewrites. I feel like as a playwright, if somebody wanted me to just update something, it takes away just like the heart that initially had. Possibly, I can't speak for every playwright, but it would just. I don't know. I think, but I do agree with Shia that the theme has to still come through. And I think personally that without a rewrite, the theme would stay the same. That's just a me thing.
Yeah. I think there's enough to write about to write a new play. So
yeah, I agree with that. I'm just saying, like, I'm just thinking in 15 years, 20 years, I could see like a high school drama teacher being like, ooh, let's change MP3 to iPhone 10. Like I could see there's flexibility for it to be updated if someone wanted to do it. But I agree that it doesn't necessarily have to unless as long as the core themes are still there, which I feel are very relatable, you don't really have to update it or change it.
Yeah. It's so true, and it's not like a huge rewrite because it's just like one word every here and there. And it reminds me now that I'm thinking of like Avenue Q when it was running. Yes. And only for now, they would be like, your hair. And like there's jokes that are always the same. But then when I first saw it, it was like George Bush, only for now. And it went on for a few years. It was like
new things.
Trump, only for now. Like, like they had to keep updating the punchline of the joke.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bush is so funny, but with the new audience laugh as much as replacing that one line.
Okay, I understand that for sure.
But yeah, I would never say to rewrite it to hide the themes or to discard from that or anything. But I think with playwrights that are still alive, I'm not saying someone would force them to do it, but I think with playwrights that are still alive, they do want to plays as honest or as possible as they could. And I think
Rewrite it now.
Rewrite this now.
I think you can take advantage of the fact that the playwright is still alive and maybe he does want to change it. Like, I think when you see, we've talked earlier about the language in Chekhov and how difficult it is to understand. And it's the same with, as Tyler said, Shakespeare and Moliere and all of those people. But the reasons those plays survive is because the themes are timeless. Like, you can put Shakespeare in any time frame and it doesn't matter. Yeah. Because the theme is the truth. And I do think a play like this kind of holds the same weight, but you can, if you change MP3 to iPhone, it doesn't take away from Vanya's speech.
Right.
Exactly. I brought over my Alexa.
So now that we've kind of touched upon the theme of this, and obviously this is, I would consider, I think Durang considers it like a dark comedy. It does have some of those darker elements, like we've touched on a couple of themes. Like, what other themes did y'all find through the play?
You want me to list them again?
I mean, we obviously listed a few of them, and if we want to touch on those a little bit more, that's fine as well.
From what type of a standpoint?
Shia?
I can say, like, I don't know if there's anything that I missed, because I know this is a very Czech
can't even say it.
Heavy. I can't even say it.
Czech heavy? Oh, I'm using this.
Jacobian?
Czech heavy.
Jacobian
heavy play. I know this is a very Chekhovian heavy play. But the themes that I did recognize, sibling rivalry, for one. There's jealousy. There is the whole being stuck in a rut and not really fulfilling your purpose or feeling like you're fulfilling your purpose, living your life dream. Jealousy is a really big one. I don't know if I just mentioned, but jealousy is a very big theme also. And just being honest with your true self. I think there's a lot of undercurrent of Vanya maybe possibly gay and not really. He told it to Masha at one point, like, oh, I thought you assumed that I was gay. And she was like, yeah, but I didn't know if you knew. So I didn't say anything. But no one else talks about it. And I feel like a lot of his like interactions with what's his name, Spike, is very like flirtatious, but we're not gonna go there kind of thing. So I feel there's also that whole like living your truth and being yourself kind of thing. So I think there's a lot of like really deep, like these are not themes that are off the cuff, and these are like deep rooted type of themes that you have to sit with, or at least certain people have to sit with. So there's a lot of deep themes, I think.
Yeah. Amanda?
I also want to point out the few lines written throughout the play that are just toss away, like throwaway lines, but are so funny about the feminist lines. Like one of the first things Spike says is like, women, right?
Right.
Along those lines. And then as it goes on, it's that kind of trope. The women are old and aging and alone, and oh gosh, like that whole thing is like poked at. I think one of the interesting things is how Sonia's character is always like, I'm gonna take a bunch of sleeping pills and kill myself, and it's supposed to be really dramatic, but really like addressing mental health is such an important issue. And how even in a weird way, because we're trying to make progress in asking for help and going to therapy and all this, like even the election on CNN, not to get into politics too much, but the election on CNN the results were sponsored by the Calm app and mental health and take a second and take a breath. I was like, that's hilarious.
Was what?
It was sponsored by the Calm app. They're like, this election forecast is brought to you by the Calm app. And it was like, now do nothing for 30 seconds and breathe. As a commercial break, I was like, this is hilarious because everyone's stressed out in 2020. But that being said, from 2012 to now, like having something be so dramatic and so farcical and soap opera-esque where they're like, oh, I just can't anymore, to now how we're like, mental health's important, guys, like don't make the joke about killing yourself, like it's not, don't do that, no, like it's interesting in that world to see how far the themes have come and bring awareness. Like I think about it and talk about it in a different way than I would have in 2012, probably.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Andre?
The theme that I really picked up on, which Amanda brought up, was the aging thing, or losing touch a little bit.
Feeling it a lot.
Huh? What is that?
Feeling it a lot.
Yeah. Jersey with all these old ass references. But yeah, I thought it was a lot about everyone just aging and growing up and or getting old, basically, and they didn't want to lose their youth, and I think that was kind of, well, except for Cassandra, I thought the family was just trying to hold on to youth in some shape or form.
And I think there's very much a theme of feeling like an outsider. Like I think Shio mentioned before, Sonia repeatedly says, I don't belong anywhere. I was adopted. I don't belong here. Maybe my parents were drunks. Like, and then she throws and smashes coffee cups because she just doesn't know how to deal with her shit.
I really enjoyed it.
It's nonsensical and hilarious, but also like in a world that happens. That's not.
Well, Shia and Tyler.
Well, I was gonna say, like, kind of tied to what you both just said. Being a firstborn, eldest child who kind of has to look after their family, I kind of understood some of these themes of like having to take care of everybody and being the one who's responsible either physically or emotionally, being the person that everyone's like, oh, this person takes care of us. And then also then looking from their standpoint, kind of like, well, because we're not the person that takes care of everything, what is our placement in this family? Now we're caretakers of the parents. Then you have I don't have an adopted person in my family, so I don't know what that point of view would be, but being the younger siblings who become comfortable with the setup of the family of like, we have the older sibling who takes care of everybody and we just have to be here and like kind of pick up whatever little pieces are left. And that also has an impact on their psyche of like, well, what about us and what is our individuality? So there is a lot of that family dynamic of like, there's the caretaker, there's the breadwinner, there's the eldest. So it really does a good job of putting a spotlight on, here we are all playing a role, but how do I break out as an individual and what does that mean for me? And I think a lot of the questioning of the age and worrying about being older is like, I have lived my life with this expectancy of my parents, of my family, and I haven't lived for myself. So what is my individuality? Who am I? It's that's that big question. And I see that a lot in this as well. Like, who am I? And how do you answer that?
And I think sibling rivalry is such a huge deal, like throughout the ages. Like, I absolutely love my sister. She is the best. She's my favorite human. Literally more than myself. But that being said, like, I know we would like see our grandparents, and I would go out because I stayed closer than she did. So I would go out to visit and help, and they'd be like, "Oh, Amanda's coming." And then whenever like twice a year, my sister would come and they'd be like, Tanya! Oh my God, Tanya! How are you? We missed you. Oh, and like then they'd be like, oh, hey, Amanda. And I'm like,
you get comfortable with these you get comfortable with these roles and expectations.
Yeah. And so that's such a modern theme, no matter what. Like back in Chekhovian times, Shakespearean times, like all the times.
Yeah.
Now it's so
all the time.
All the times.
All the times.
Well, to kind of bring it full circle, I think one of the things y'all touched on really well is the openness in the dialogue in this. And I think that's one of the biggest difference between Durang and Chekhov is you have a character like Sonia who's very much like, I've been alone forever, and it's because I've pined after you, to Vanya. She said, I think in the first like 5 pages, that is a super big theme in a lot of Chekhov's work is the pining after the unrequited love, but it's never said. It's always subtext. The same with Sonia announcing her being bipolar, or Vanya saying that like all of these things are so out in the open for us to see because they say it. Whereas in old Chekhov plays, like these things were never discussed. And kind of to bring to your point, Amanda, like it's the openness that we have in our ability now to talk about not just who we are, but like our mental health and where we sit with those relationships. And I think when you put it into context, again, like I think it's very difficult to look at this play without seeing the Chekhov in it or around it. And to understand it is to bring it to another level. Tyler, I'm sorry, I saw your hand up earlier, and then Amanda, back to you.
Oh, totally fine. It's cool. Everything that everyone has said has been so fascinating and lovely, but I'm going to mention something else. And I also agree with everything everyone said. I was like, yeah, I'm here for it. Something that I think is really interesting and fun, and I don't know if it's a theme, but is like, this is stupid, the lack of alcohol that they drink, that when they drink. Chekhov plays, to me, are notorious for people drinking. Like, people drink vodka like it's water in Russia. Like, it is just a normal thing. But here we get a lot of coffee, we get a lot of tea. And in contrast with that, like we were talking about, was people hide their feelings. We know what their feelings are. And normally drinking should bring that out. And they still don't do that in most of Chekhov's plays. The lack of drinking in this still makes people want to say what's on their mind, because I think it's a statement itself, because that means that it's built up so much that they can no longer hold it in anymore. And like, I don't need alcohol to say this. I could have my tea and tell you exactly that you are a bitch. I mean, no one really says that, but I think that's something that's really interesting. And it's non-Chekhovian in a sense, because no one's drinking. I also love that this play, while it's an homage to Chekhov, I find it more of just an homage to classic plays. Because we get Cassandra, who represents Greek tragedies or just Greek plays in general, with her psychic abilities, her premonitions, etc. But I love the blue heron references, because to me it's a Godot reference. We're waiting for the blue heron, but the blue heron never shows up. To me, that's very. It's absurdism, which is what Christopher Durang really kind of understands and loves. I think it's just a huge shout out to Beckett in that sense. And I think this play is truly just a love letter to classic plays that no one really gets, understands, or things are like, just whatever. I cannot get enough of this play. I know it's not really about themes, but like that's a theme for me. It's just plays in general. Fair. Plays are weird. Plays are fun, but like, we love them. We love plays, and I think that's what this play knows it's a play. Think deep down. They know this is a play, and we should also accept it as a play because of what goes on.
I have never ever experienced this moment before. Just seeing someone burst about plays, and
I love plays.
The
It's 100% fair, and the fact that like
I really appreciate
like bursting at the seams. It's amazing. I love it.
It's
and I think
reminding me of
He's geeking out, and I'm here for it.
Yeah.
I
Just like, I
appreciate
don't
that.
know, I love plays. I really do. And I love
Jazz
older
hands.
plays. I think that I love older plays because they're just rich with interesting ideas and themes that kind of, it brought us to where we are today. Older plays brought us modern day plays, period. Like, that's a fact. We didn't have these older plays. We wouldn't be anywhere where we are today. I mean, sure, no one's producing work right now, but that's besides the point.
2020 problem.
2020.
2020, hey. But like, the inspiration always comes from reading older plays, from reading plays that inspire us. Like, it's a huge homage to just theater in general. I love this play so much. I really do.
Amanda, your hand.
Beautiful.
I just wanted to touch on what Ethan had said, but also now what Tyler has brought up of, I love that reading this, not seeing it, because you might be able to tell right away or be more reminded in person of a production of how modern it is based on the set, the costumes, and all of that. But when you're reading it as we had, like, it feels like older text until all of a sudden you're reminded that it's modern. They start cursing. They're, dressing up as Snow White, ranting about the old generations and times. You almost forget at certain points that it's not Chekhov or an older play. And then you're like thrusted back into that it's not, and that it's modern. She forgot her music player thing because people don't know the words, which is also a funny moment in general. And I also, just to bring it back to our last play reading of Nice People, those characters also reference, like, oh, the old generation, they don't know, you're mad, the old generation. And then in this play also, Spike is like, oh, the old generation's so weird about their bodies, like, they're weird about sexuality, they're weird about this. Like, it's like a constant theme that the young people are constantly like being like, you prude, and it's in all of
awesome.
these.
It's like, it's always going to be that way.
It's
next year is going to be like, that last one blew. It's like,
which
well,
in a way is like,
that's just the way it goes.
Makes this play timeless as well. Like, less of a period piece, like always relatable in that sense. And those little nods to be like, I don't know what the big deal is. I'm in my underwear, big deal. Like, and then it goes on.
Yeah.
Wades into the
Shia.
Oh, well, my comment's kind of like silly now, but it was, I had a thought when Tyler was talking about how, like, in the Chekhov plays, they're drunk and they drink their vodkas. And I was like, well, Russian equals vodka. And he kind of like modernized this, I guess, Americanized this. So we got coffee. Do you think, is that what coffee equals? The equivalent of like Russian vodka, like Russians drink vodka like it's like water, I guess it's the stereotype.
If they modernized it now, would it be White Claws?
Right. Yes,
we are not.
Exactly. Like, that's what I'm thinking.
I ain't drinking no White Claw.
No, it'd be
no, they'd all be dressed.
A lot of people are drinking White Claw, but that's like what I'm going for. Is like, the stereotype with Russians. You think, okay, they drink vodka like it's water, and then you have this play and you're kind of modernizing it and you're making it more Americanized and MP3s and all that stuff, and we're drinking coffee, and coffee's a very, like, that's the first thing Americans drink in the morning. Then you have like tea for some people. I drink tea, but I just was wondering, like, is the beverage aspect of it, which I love the point that you were making, that they're revealing themselves without the need of the alcohol. But I also was wondering, like, do you think he purposely made it coffee and tea because he was making it more Americanized, and that's kind of what we assimilate to, versus like Russians with their vodka, and then maybe in like 10 years it will be Americans and their White Claws, and however have you, like, you think that?
No, we'll be gone by then.
Yeah,
Well,
well, I think
No, don't say that.
do you,
Nope.
I guess like
Y'all
what-
will. I won't.
do you think the beverage is such an important, like, I'm wondering, because I have never read any Chekhov
Yeah.
plays, but with what you said, I'm wondering, like, is the beverage an important component of ensuring that it modernizes the play and makes it more relatable to us?
I think that's a great question. I think it's, I definitely think it's a possibility. I think with so many of those plays, like, again, what we see with Durang and a lot of the plays, all of the action happens off stage. So the only time we have moments for these people to sit around is over drinks and over, sometimes it's cocktails, but most of these actions happen in the morning.
Yes.
Or the afternoon. So we do have those moments around tea or coffee. And again, if we go by the play, all of these characters are in their 50s or older. So coffee and tea is what's going to be around,
So like,
the last one. So I just wanted to get y'all's, if there were any final thoughts, anything that we didn't get a chance to kind of cover.
We done thought this one out. I mean,
As we went over, I think we covered a lot of things. Yeah.
I'll just say I love plays. This play loves plays. I love this play. We all love plays.
Well, thank you guys for being a part of this. I really appreciate it. This was Christopher Durang's Vanya and Sonia and Masha and Spike. And thank you for watching with CastableNYC.